Hello, I'm taking on a challenge to beat every playable Nintendo-published game. The next game is Miho Nakayama's Heart-Pounding High School. What happens when you pair up Square and Nintendo during the NES era and have them work on a game together? Well, apparently you get a crazy adventure game that was not only one of the first dating sims ever made, but it was also one of the first to feature the likeness of a real Japanese idol. Apparently, it was Square who first approached Nintendo with the idea, but I've heard some conflicting stories on how exactly it went down. Satoru Okada, one of Nintendo R&D1's earliest directors, stated in an interview that Square came to Nintendo with the idea for an idol tie-in game, and Nintendo's own Yoshio Sakamoto had an idea to use real telephone numbers as a mechanic in the game. However, Sakamoto himself, who actually worked on the game, recalls these events in reverse. In a different interview, Sakamoto claimed that when Square approached Nintendo, their idea was to make an adventure game that utilized telephones, and it was his own idea to include a real idol in the game. I'm a bit more inclined to believe Sakamoto on this one, since he was more involved with the creation of the title, but regardless, the final game was something very unique. So, what did I even mean when I said that the game used real telephone numbers? Well, as I mentioned before, Miho Nakayama's Heart-Pounding High School was an adventure game with some dating sim elements. In this game, you play as a high school boy trying to hook up with a girl in his school, who you eventually realize is an undercover idol. This idol is essentially supposed to be Miho Nakayama, a real Japanese idol who was popular in the 80s. Now, Nintendo and Square didn't stop at just using her name and likeness. Part of the game's draw was that Nakayama herself recorded voice lines for the game, and if you called various numbers provided by the game using your real phone, you would hear these voice recordings of Nakayama that would pertain to events in the game. It's a pretty novel concept, although I'm not sure how I personally feel about a game that gives you the illusion of a real-life celebrity giving you romantic phone calls. One funny story about these phone calls was that apparently, since the game ended up selling well, Nintendo had a lot of issues with people calling the wrong number. It got so bad that one factory in particular was bombarded with tons of accidental calls. Unsurprisingly, these numbers no longer take you to these recordings, but my translation included files that contained translated scripts for all of the phone calls. On that note, like many of Nintendo's FDS adventure games, this one was never officially translated and brought to the West, and considering what kind of game it is, it's not really all that surprising that it didn't. However, unlike most of Nintendo's other adventure games on the FDS, this one already had a fan translation that I was able to use to play the game in English. It only uses one disc, so it's a bit smaller than the other adventure games, which I think might have made it easier to create a translation patch for. The game launched in Japan in December of 1987 under the name Nakayama Miho no Tokimeki High School, which I've translated as Miho Nakayama's Heart-Pounding High School. The game actually came in a special blue disc, which meant that it was compatible with disc fax kiosks installed in various stores in Japan. Basically, if you finished the game, you could submit your completed file to Nintendo in order to enter a raffle to win one of two prizes. If you earned a blue ribbon while playing the game, you would enter a raffle for a special autographed phone card that would feature a picture of Nakayama on it. If you are like me and don't know what a phone card is, they are basically cards that you can use to pay for telephone services. Anyway, if you earned a red ribbon while playing the game, you would enter a raffle for an autographed VHS tape that contained B-roll footage of Miho Nakayama herself. This footage has been uploaded to YouTube, and I'll put a link in my description for anyone who wants to see it. So, how exactly did you earn either a blue ribbon or a red ribbon? Well, let's take a look at the actual game to find out. Get ready, this game is a wild one. After the title screen, the game let me enter my name. I guess they really wanted you to self-insert with this one, huh? After this, my character explained that I recently changed schools due to my father relocating for a job. Despite the change, my character seemed eager to see what new life awaited him, as he booked it towards the school with a big grin on his face. Throughout the game, your character's face is displayed in the bottom left, and during certain sequences, you can even change your expression alongside your dialogue options. Anyway, after class, I met a kid named Sadakichi Yamamura. Despite the game bluntly calling him Fathead before I knew his actual name, Sadakichi was pretty friendly, saying that us guys needed to stick together and that he had my back. Similar to New Onigashima, there were some options on the side that I could select from here. I could examine, talk, touch, or look at my items. Using the examine option, I pretty quickly realized that Sadakichi was holding a Miho Nakayama phone card, much like the one you could earn in real life from the raffle. After seeing it, my character revealed that he had one too. Sadakichi said that there was apparently a Miho phone service number, and then the first phone number of the game appeared on the screen. This was a phone number you were supposed to call in real life and hear a message from Miho Nakayama. This message was basically just Miho Nakayama advertising for an upcoming show in the game, although she also talked about some sort of bunny charm that she had too. After this, Sadakichi said that he would show me around the school. Just as we left the classroom, my character accidentally bumped into another student. After a whole entire loading screen, I was taken to a close-up of her face. She told me that she was in a hurry, and I was immediately taken to another loading screen to switch back to the previous screen. Was that close-up really worth all that loading time? Anyway, she left in a hurry, and Sadakichi told me that she was someone named Mizuho Takayama. What a suspiciously familiar sounding name. Apparently, when I bumped into her, she also dropped a bunny charm. Didn't I recently just hear about a bunny charm from somewhere? Well, I guess I should probably return it to her. However, suddenly, a trio of girls appeared out of nowhere that Sadakichi referred to as the Loudmouths. They teased me for bumping into Mizuho, asking me if my heart raced, and they proclaimed how scandalous it was. Then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished. Sadakichi said that they were the groupies of some girl named Erika. Erika was apparently the school board chairman's daughter. Then, on cue, Erika showed up with her groupies close behind. Erika welcomed me to the school and told me that I could come to her if I have any issues. Since it seemed to be their defining personality trait, the groupies then teased Erika, loudly proclaiming that she must like the main character. Erika shushed them and laughed with an oh ho ho as she walked off. From my understanding, this type of laugh is often used as a stereotypical laugh for stuck-up aristocratic women. After this, I bumped into another character, and immediately Sadakichi was displeased to see him. This new guy's name was Masaomi Tsuji, and apparently he's a big creep. Now, if you watched my video on New Onigashima, you might recall that Tsuji is the online handle for my brother and translator. And this Tsuji name sounded pretty similar to Suji. It's Tsuji! I didn't know you were in this game! It kind of became a running gag throughout the stream that this character was actually my brother, which was especially funny for me because their personalities are practically opposites. Tsuji! I didn't know you were this kind of fellow. Anyway, Tsuji told me to avoid trying to hook up with anyone at the school because he claimed all the girls were crazy about him instead. He also left with a laugh of his own, and immediately my character agreed that he was indeed a creep. Suddenly, Erika's groupies showed up again, and they told me not to make fun of Tsuji. Apparently, he's cool, smart, and super rich too. Wait, was Tsuji actually telling the truth when he said all the girls were crazy about him? Then, the girls suddenly disappeared like a cyclone. After this, I finally found Mizuho and returned the charm. She thanked me for returning it, although she apparently had to leave in a hurry. I wonder why this girl always seemed so busy. After she left, my character and Sadakichi noticed how remarkably similar she looked to Miho Nakayama. However, my character thought nothing more of it and headed home. At home, I found my brother and my mother. Yes, this image from the waist down is all you ever see of your mother in this game. Apparently, my brother is a professional cameraman, and he told me that I got a phone call from some girl. This made another phone number pop up on the screen. This one was from Mizuho, and she thanked me properly for returning the bunny charm. We can't hear it here, but let's just say her voice probably sounded exactly like Miho Nakayama's voice from earlier. The message kind of had some flirtatious undertones, and she told me she wanted to talk more the next time we would meet. After this, my character started giggling like a weirdo at the thought that Mizuho might be interested in him. However, for some reason, Mizuho wasn't there for school the next day, and apparently this happened often. Once I returned home again, I got another phone call, and this one was from my brother. I guess they must have gotten other people to voice some of the characters and not just Miho Nakayama. My brother was apparently interviewing Miho for a photo book, and he told me a small excerpt. Miho shared that recently someone returned her bunny charm to her, and that made her very happy. For some reason, my character didn't seem to find this at all suspicious. After this, I found a photo of Miho left behind by my brother. In the photo was a very familiar looking charm, and finally my character started to connect all the dots. During the next day of school, my character decided to confirm his suspicions with Mizuho. She was apparently in the music room, but I bumped into the vice principal along the way, and this guy was sweating profusely for some reason. He got mad at me for running in the halls, and he wouldn't let me leave. I did eventually get away, but then I also ran into the principal, although thankfully he let me go after a quick greeting. After finding Mizuho in the music room, I was taken to this game's first major dating section. A few times throughout the game, you'll enter a sequence where you need to say a bunch of correct answers or else you'll get a game over. Out of curiosity, I kind of wanted to see what would happen if I failed, so I decided to be as aggressive as possible. Immediately, I accused her of being Miho Nakayama, which she did not respond well to. I then showed her the picture my brother took, which she didn't appreciate either. This caused the sequence to fail, and I got my first game over. It kind of treats game overs as a bad ending. The word Finn bounced around on screen, and it told me that Mizuho suddenly stopped coming to school, and it was all my fault. Despite the game treating this like an ending, it just reset me back to the start of the sequence. This time, I avoided talking about the photo at first. Instead, I talked about my recent transfer, her bunny charm, and my desire to be her friend. Apparently, this was enough for me to soften her up for me to reveal the photo safely this time, and she confessed everything. She was indeed Miho Nakayama, but she expressed that she really wanted to have a normal high school life too. I promised to keep her identity a secret, and we decided to leave for home together, although first she left to get her bag. While waiting for her, I ran into some of the other characters again. Erica told me that she had a birthday party this Sunday, and she told me not to skip out on it. Suji then appeared and told me to back away from Erica because that's who he was gunning for. After this, I decided to help Sadakichi clean the classroom until Miho was finally ready. On the way home, it was time for another one of those dating sections. Honestly, I didn't really like either of the options here. I didn't really want to talk about her work, since I knew she wanted a normal high school life, but the other option had me telling her that I haven't walked with a girl in a while, which just seemed a bit weird. It turned out, my initial suspicions were correct, and after talking about work, she wasn't all that happy. This quickly spiraled out of control, and she accused me of just toying with her, leading to another game over. Apparently, the other option was correct, as she simply was just happy to be considered a normal girl. After this, I tried to avoid talking about her work, but eventually I didn't seem to have any other options. She got upset again, but this time I was able to apologize. Eventually, I was given the option to ask her out on a date, but now there was a new challenge. I had to pick my expression when I asked her out. I picked a happy expression, but apparently she didn't appreciate it. I guess I looked too eager. Instead, I just asked her out with the most boring expression possible, which turned out to be correct. She agreed, and we decided to meet at a cafe on Sunday. Uh-oh, wasn't that the same day as Erica's birthday party? Who needs to go to a random birthday party anyway? After some time, Sunday finally arrived, and my character eagerly left for the date. But then, something super unexpected happened. A bunch of dudes in suits showed up out of nowhere. What the heck? What are the men in black doing here? They threatened me and told me to come with them. I protested, but apparently they drugged me or something, and I passed out. When I regained consciousness, I was suddenly in Erica's mansion and her groupies were nearby. Wait, so those guys worked for Erica? And she sent them after me to force me to attend her party? Man, what is going on with this game? Erica then showed up wearing an ornate dress and she asked me about it, fully aware that she forced me here. I defiantly said that I didn't like her dress and she made her groupies lock all the doors on me. Something is definitely wrong with this girl. Erica told me that I had to pick between her or Mizuho, and instead of making a choice, I booked it for a window and leapt out without thinking twice. Without realizing it, I had jumped out of the third story of her mansion and I landed face first into the dirt. Erica then mocked my feeble attempt at escaping and I was dragged back into the room. This time I told her that I would choose Mizuho over her and she did not take it well. She became furious and made quite the expression of her own while proclaiming that she was going to make her father expel Mizuho as revenge. Geez, I've met this girl like what, twice? Why was she so insistent about me? Anyway, I pleaded for her not to expel Mizuho, and the game gave me the option to choose between the two of them again. Apparently, choosing to run away while she was mad allowed me to actually escape properly somehow. However, this time Erica sent her pet dog after me. I tried to fight the dog, but that didn't work at all and I was dragged back into the room. I kept trying out various options, but I kept getting dragged back into the room over and over. Then, by mistake, I accidentally told Erica that I would choose her over Mizuho. Whoops. Sorry, Miho, but I guess I've got to get out of here somehow. This caused Erica to finally calm down and she gave me some tea. It then gave me the option to choose between drinking the tea or eating the cake, and I was suspicious of both. I took the cake anyway though, and as I feared, the cake was drugged with some kind of anesthetic. Geez, this girl is actually crazy. After this, she asked me to become her boyfriend. I refused, which kind of just made the sequence restart for some reason. This time I tried out the tea, however, that was drugged too. Since I didn't see any other options, I swallowed my pride and agreed to go out with her. She then insisted I drink even more, but for some reason, refusing this time made her present a third option, some chicken. For whatever reason, the game let me grab the chicken, and with this new item in hand, I once again booked it for the door. This time, I threw the chicken at the dog, and the dog stupidly gobbled it down, which, surprise surprise, was also drugged. This incapacitated the dog, and I was finally able to escape. Phew, what a nightmare. I ran to the cafe, but it was too late. Miho was nowhere to be found. When I got home, my brother told me that Mizuho left me a message on the phone. In the message she left behind, she assumed I was going out with Erica. She expressed how foolish she was for falling for my words and even went so far as to say she hated me now. Great. The game then told me that Miho stopped coming to school. It kind of showed a message here similar to the other game over screens. However, it made a point to mention that it was not my fault this time. Man, it really played this out like a bad ending. It told me that there were plenty of other fish in the sea and that I needed to treasure the time I had spent with her. However, suddenly, only a few days later, I got a letter from Miho. Apparently, Sadakichi told Miho the full story. I don't know how Sadakichi even knew what happened since I was basically kidnapped, but thankfully, Miho agreed to meet me again on Friday. Man, I guess Sadakichi really did have my back, huh? Anyway, when Friday arrived, I found Miho at the cafe and it was time for another dating section. Ugh, these just got more difficult and obscure as time went on. I now had to choose faces even more and all the options were so negative. Man, no matter what I did, the scene just ended with Miho crying and a game over. It must have had something to do with those face options. At this point, I was just taking stabs in the dark until I finally stumbled on the solution. Despite the fact that all 4 options led me to the same second choice, I had to specifically select the ... option with the frowning face. One of the first things I tried was this option with a sad looking face, but apparently it wasn't quite the right emotion. After this, I thought I still selected the wrong option and started mashing A for the game over sequence, but I actually had selected the right option. Somehow though, through my mashing, I selected a bunch of right options and faces, and she apologized and we made up. I guess after that first frown, making a neutral face was the correct option for everything afterwards. I somehow stumbled onto the solution by complete mistake. Unfortunately, after we made up, some weirdos started to spy on us from the doorway. We weren't sure who it was, but after saying I'd beat him up if we ever saw him again, Miho thought it was kinda funny and was suddenly in a better mood. I started flirting with her, asking various questions about what she thought of me and what her type was, but she only gave me vague, playful answers. I was making faces through this part too, but I'm not really sure how much they affected the conversation. Anyway, she eventually had to leave and the date was over. When I got home, I apparently already had another call from Miho. Miho said she really enjoyed the date, but that she was currently dealing with a stalker, which I guess explains that guy from before. Miho was starting to get worried she'd have to change schools again, but she asked me to see a movie with her on Sunday. It was apparently a film called Stand By Miho, and it starred herself. Anyway, in preparation for the date, I bought her a gift at the suggestion of my brother. We met up at the cafe and headed towards the theater. Here was another cryptic dating section where I just had to do a bunch of things in the right sequence. At first, I tried talking to her, then giving her the present, but this was apparently the wrong order. Talking to her about the film put her in a bad mood, and then trying to give her the gift made her call me a weirdo, which eventually led to a game over. Instead, I had to say that I didn't want to talk and then give her the gift. This time, she was happy to receive it. Getting the exact order in this game is kind of obnoxious. The gift was a music box and she really seemed to like it. After this, I had a bunch of different options to try and make a move on her. First, I reached for her hand, which seemed to be working well enough. I tried out a bunch of the other options and they all seemed to work fine. Finally, I went in for the kiss, but then she let out an eek. Was I being too forward? Well, it turns out she wasn't freaking out about me at all. The screen suddenly changed as the people in front of us turned around. Somehow it was those dudes with sunglasses again. What on earth? What are they doing here? Apparently, these dudes are Erika's bodyguards from the Sunglasses Corps. They had been spying on us and had figured out Mizuho's real identity. Shoot, Miho and I decided to split up, although she said she would call me soon. On the next day, I received the next phone call. This one opened with Miho's manager telling me to leave Miho alone, but then she quickly grabbed the phone and told me that she had a return gift for me in her locker and that she hid the key to her locker somewhere in the piano in the music room at school. When I got to school the next day, Erika leaked the news to everyone about Miho, and now the school was in an uproar. The principal was disappointed the news got out, both Sadakichi and the trio were in shock, and Erika was simply just mad at me for ditching her insane birthday party. Tsuji even showed up and got upset at me for making Erika cry. To escape the uproar, I hid in the music room and searched for that key Miho told me about. This part was awful. I kept examining all over the piano and couldn't find anything. I was mashing on this thing for around 10 minutes before finally making progress. For a game that was previously moving at the speed of light, this part was a total mood killer. Anyway, what you had to do was touch an extremely precise part of the piano to hear a strange noise, then do this again in a slightly higher spot, then again to finally find the key. Yeesh. With this key, I could finally open Miho's locker, and inside was my gift. It was a homemade sweater, and in its pocket was a note with another phone number. In this call, Miho told me that she wanted to meet me at the cafe on Christmas Eve, although soon after the manager took the phone away and accused me of being the stalker. The next scene took place in the cafe on Christmas Eve, but Miho was nowhere to be found. I actually kind of got stuck here for a while. I just kept ordering coffee and chugging it down, but she would not show up. It turned out I had to put on the sweater, which caused the waitress to talk to me a bit, and she revealed that Miho was simply running late. This finally caused Miho to show up, and we decided to take a walk. Time for one final dating sequence. This one was brutal. There were just so many options and emotions to choose from. This whole sequence was basically me needing to navigate her difficulties with finding a balance between her job and her relationship with me. It took a lot of trial and error and a lot of game overs, but I kind of just kept following whatever path led me to newer messages. Eventually, I confessed my love for her, but made the call that we needed to break up for the sake of her career. It turns out this was the right path to see the ending. Well, sort of. This was actually one of 2 different endings that you can reach. After we split up, I headed back to school and talked with everyone some more. They all tried to cheer me up, and even Erika apologized and said that she would try to argue with her father to get Miho back. Tsuji also appeared, and somehow we all made up, with the main character referring to both of them as his friends. Honestly, after that whole birthday sequence, I'm not sure I would be so forgiving. Anyway, I ended up calling Miho one last time. In this message, Miho said that after thinking about the situation, she realized that she couldn't give up on her dream to keep singing. She said that living a normal life was an impossible wish after all, and gave me one final thanks for the memories. The game ended by explaining that Miho left the school but never forgot about me. I listened to her sing once more, and it was clear the song she was singing was about me. What a tragic ending. So, this was the normal ending, or I guess the bad ending, depending on how you look at it. This caused a gift with a blue ribbon to appear on the title screen. This is that ribbon thing I mentioned back at the beginning of the video. Beating the game and getting the normal ending lets you enter the raffle for the phone card, but if you wanted to enter the raffle for the VHS tape, you had to get the alternate ending. I wanted to see the other ending, but to my dismay, my save forced me into the bad ending. The only way to see the good ending would be to play the entire game over again. Is it really worth replaying everything for this? Surely this still counts as beating the game, right? Well, the game itself isn't honestly all that long, and I really wanted to see the good ending, so I decided to do it. I played through the entire game all over again. It didn't take me nearly as long this time, so after about 20 minutes, I was back at the final conversation. I didn't want to get locked into the bad ending again, and the correct sequence here was pretty obtuse, so I just decided to look up the solution this time. It followed a similar path as before, but instead of just proclaiming my love to her, I first had to say I didn't love her, and then say I actually did love her after she pressed harder. No idea why this changes things so much, but the rest was all the same. Once again, I said we should break up, but this time she protested more and asked for one final request. The game panned to a shot of her giving the main character a smooch in the middle of the snow. The final school scene played again with me making up with Erika and Tsuji, but this time Miho's message was different. This time she professed her love for me too, but she decided to transfer schools anyway to protect everyone at my school. However, she wanted to meet me one last time on the school roof. The next day, I waited at the rooftop for her, and waited, and waited, and waited. Okay, this part was kind of dumb. There was a wait option, but it didn't do anything. Instead, you just had to sit on this screen for a while and wait in real life for the sky to change colors. Why did they even have the wait option? Anyway, Miho finally arrived, and she decided that she didn't want to leave me after all. She said that she'd even ditch her dreams just to be with me, and we decided to run away together. Man, this ending sequence is wild. As we ran off, suddenly a storm of reporters and fans started to chase after us. We tried our best to run away, but suddenly Miho tripped. Oh no. To make matters worse, someone on a motorcycle was suddenly heading right for us. It's over. The biker arrived and slowly revealed his face. It's Tsuji! He's the hero! What on earth? Apparently, this guy owns a bike, and he decided to help us escape. That's right, not only did Tsuji save my bacon in real life by translating New Onigashima for me, but he also saved my bacon in this game too. Honestly, out of all the characters they chose to rescue the player in the end, I kind of can't believe they picked Tsuji. The game ends with Tsuji, Miho, and the main character all riding off into the sunset while the credits played. There were also lyrics to a song here, although I have no idea if this was a real Miho Nakayama song or not. Well, I guess that's it. Miho and the main character elope, and I guess Miho quits being an idol? Hooray, I guess. Anyway, this earned me the box with the red ribbon, and Miho Nakayama's heart-pounding high school was complete. On to the review. Alright, let me get this out of the way first. I really don't think I'm the target audience for this game. It leans more heavily into the story and dating aspects and less into the classic adventure game format, which I personally just don't like as much. It also doesn't help that I didn't actually care about the main romance much at all. I don't know, it was just a bit weird to me to play a game where you could hear real recordings of an idol playing herself, giving you phone calls confessing her love to you. Also, is it strange that I actually found the bad ending more compelling than the good one? Miho leaving all her hopes and dreams behind just to be with the player didn't didn't really feel like an especially great ending to me, although the twist with Suji was pretty funny. Another aspect I wasn't all that crazy about was that the limited gameplay elements that the game did have felt like a huge downgrade from New Onigashima. While New Onigashima was a bit too obtuse at times, this one frankly felt even worse. The piano scene in particular was really annoying, and the dating sections largely just felt like trial and error more than anything else. Alright, now, let's talk about the actual positives. The game was really funny. It's got that standard Japanese rom-com humor, so if that's something you're into, it definitely delivers on that front. It was especially fun to stream this in front of a live audience, and there were many moments that had me laughing out loud. The game is kind of insane, and I mean that in the best way possible. Also, even if I ultimately don't really like how it all pans out, it's hard not to appreciate how unique this game is for the time. All in all, it's an ambitious title that got a lot of laughs out of me, but unfortunately, I just didn't really care for the game's more serious elements, and what little gameplay the game did have ultimately just detracted from the experience. I gave the game a 5 out of 10. With Miho Nakayama's heart-pounding high school complete, I have now finished 61 out of the 150 NES games in the challenge, meaning I am now 40.67% of the way through all of the NES games. If you've been paying close attention, you'll notice that the list for NES games has gone up by 2 games. Recently, I found a handful of retro games that Nintendo published on the Wii Virtual Console, and I decided to include them in the challenge. You'll hear more about them in the future. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more of these in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss out on the next one. Also leave a like if you enjoyed it, since it will help the channel grow and motivate me to continue this series. I hope I will see you in the next step of my quest to beat every Nintendo game.